Good morning. I'm Steve Runyon, your worship associate today. Welcome to Morristown Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, where we covenant to weave together the strands of our separate lives into the fabric of community. And if you would like to have a visual, there we go. Okay. We are a radically inclusive community. No matter who you are, wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. If you're a visitor, we welcome you. If you're a regular attendee, we welcome you back. And either way, we invite you to look at the card in the seat back in front of you. It lists the 7, soon to be 8, principles of Unitarian Universalism, and it's great reading for all of us. If you've looked at the order of service yet, you will notice that Alan Wells is the speaker today. You may also notice that there is a curious absence up here. Alan, unfortunately, is sick, and he's not going to be here. So Nick and I are taking over, and we have we've parceled out the various parts of the service. It might be a little bit shorter because we did have to get rid of at least one thing. But yeah, so that's what's going on. And we have a few announcements. Right here, okay. On Thursday afternoon, so not just this Thursday, but every Thursday, there is a bocce game on the front oval, weather permitting, and all are welcome. Contact Toby Tyler if you're interested. Is Toby here? No, okay. On Saturday, August 5th, so that's next Saturday, from 7 to 9, there is a marshmallow roast and game night for young adults. So please feel free to bring your own games and other activities. There's going to be it's a wonderful chance to have time together and do some fun activities with other youth here at the fellowship. Next Sunday, we expect that Alan will be all better, and his Odyssey story is next Sunday after the service. So we welcome you for that. I should note that I talked to Alan yesterday, and he sounded pretty darn good, but he just didn't want to risk, bringing anything in here to everybody else and sharing what didn't need to be shared. So that's why he's staying home. And he's watching online, and we wave and say hi to him. There is a complete listing of all events available at muuf.org/calendar, so we invite you to look at those. And now I'm going to ask Brooke Donaldson to come up and make an announcement. And following her, it will be Steve Parker.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brooke Donaldson. I am speaking today on behalf of the Ministerial Search Committee. I wanted to make you aware of some things. So we are committed to keeping you all informed throughout this process and sharing as much information as we possibly can without breaking the confidentiality that we have to maintain. So we want to let you know that we are actively meeting and working together already, and we have already met with the UUA, so we have a pretty good line forward of what needs to be accomplished. And just to give you all an overview, a very brief overview of what should be expected, is that we have essentially 3 different phases. The first phase we're currently in, so that's what would be considered kind of the internal phase. We as the Ministerial Search Committee are working on creating the congregational record, which we're going to compose of really all of your insight and our history. So that's going to include surveys and cottage meetings that we will be hosting throughout the fall. So look forward to that, and please, we want everyone to participate. So make sure that when you get an invitation or you hear about it, you sign up so that we can hear your voice and some of the things that you might be looking for in the next settled minister. The next phase is kind of our applicant phase. So you might be wondering, is anyone interested in the fellowship? How many people have applied? And we're actually not going to know that until January 2nd. But as soon as January 2nd, we're going to have the names released to us, and we will begin that discernment process of going through applications together. And then the last phase, we're clumping together pre-candidating and candidating. And the pre-candidating phase means that those applicants that we're really interested in, we're going to be doing some intense interviews, both virtually, maybe in person. And then the very last phase of the candidating is when we're going to be introducing that potential applicant to you all. So applicants will start arriving in our inbox January 2nd. Pre-candidating is going to last between February and March, and the candidating is going to last between April and May. And so hopefully, we're very hopeful that after this process, we will have a settled minister. And just a fun fact to leave you with, amongst the 7 members on the Ministerial Search Committee, we have over 166 years of membership here at the congregation. So thank you. Steve Parker?
Thanks, Brooke. And I can imagine our inbox is going to explode in January. This is a very desirable congregation for a new minister. My name is Steve Parker. I'm speaking on behalf of the Gateways Task Force, and I wanted to give everybody an update on the project, and it's good news. We have signed a contract with Visbean Construction Company. They're the people that did the Oval project for us and that we like so well. We now have a permit foundation for the foundation and slabs, and on Friday afternoon we got the final approval from the Morristown Soil Conservation District, which is what we need to actually break ground. So sometime in the next 7 to 10 days, it starts. We're really excited, and of course the first steps are to clear the brush and the trees out of the area where the building footprint and the parking lot go, and then they'll move on from there. We have a formal groundbreaking celebration the second Sunday in September, the 17th. Mark the date. I anticipate there will be quite a party over this. And speaking of that, there will probably be another party about a year after that when we actually cut the ribbon and open the completed building. Should take about 12 months for the whole thing. I do need to mention safety here. It's pretty critical. This project is going to be the whole west side of the property. So for example, we'll put tape across this door. You wouldn't want to be going out there, or in the terrace room, you wouldn't go out on the patio. Temporarily, we're going to close off the memorial garden. It's not being touched, but a lot of work around it, so we're a little worried about access. So please, please, please do not go on the site. If you're curious, go up on the second floor. The windows are going to give you a great view. And I do want to say, kids are particularly curious. If you are a parent, it is your responsibility to make sure your children are safe. So do not let them on the construction site. In closing, I want to thank you for 2 things. First, your incredible patience for the 10 years it has taken to get here. And second, for your incredible generosity. And speaking of which, I would be remiss to mention that my good friend Franklin Heller, co-chair of DRWW, the fundraising folks, keeps saying, we should do this all for cash. So in this fall, we'll start the final round of visits to ask for additional generosity to complete our funding. And it would be lovely if we could do it entirely without a permanent loan. But in the meantime, we do have that construction loan to tide us over for a 3-year period. And finally, I really want to acknowledge that some of us here are probably apprehensive about this for a whole list of reasons. And let me just say, I hear you and I get that. And it's okay to feel however it is that you feel. I'm excited, not everybody is, but we're a big community and there's a lot of diversity in views. Have you ever gotten 10 UUs together and tried to get a single view on any topic? It's who we are. But we have endured for 65 years through lots of changes. And here's my truth. I believe in you. We wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for that. I believe in us. We will get through this. It will work out. We're doing good work, as Reverend Joel says frequently. We're in the business of saving lives. And when it's over, future generations will look back on this, wonder how we did it, and be really glad that we did. So thank you so much.
So I was up early this morning after the cat woke me up and realized that we needed some opening words. And so I just kind of whipped this out this morning, starting with none other than ChatGPT, which I guess we're probably all aware is artificial intelligence provided by Microsoft. ChatGPT lists a dozen types of humor. Half of them I was familiar with, as I'm guessing most of us are. Dark, dry, juvenile. Who doesn't know and love juvenile humor? Self-deprecating, slapstick, and wordplay. The other half are new to me, at least as they're formally defined. Absurd is using unrealistic or surreal elements to create incongruity. Affiliative is telling jokes to laugh with others and improve relationships. Aggressive is using hostility to enhance oneself at the expense of others. Observational is using everyday situations or experience to make witty remarks. Self-defeating is making fun of oneself for the enjoyment of others. Self-enhancing is finding amusement in life's hardships to cheer oneself. Childhood superhero fantasies aside, I can say with near perfect certainty that I am human. And as a human, there's no doubt that I've used all of those, even aggressive humor against others and self-defeating humor against myself. It may be that whatever I said was even pretty funny, at least at the time. But what messages sank into my own psyche and to those of others? On the flip side, how much affiliative or self-enhancing humor have I used to build up myself and the various communities I'm a part of? Can there ever be enough? I don't want to avoid all humor, just in case something might have a negative connotation when viewed from a particular angle. But with time and practice and empathy, I can do better. I've heard that on the whole, conservatives have a better sense of humor than liberals. Look it up. It's only about a 5% difference, but supposedly that's true. Looking at conservative religion versus liberal religion, it's pretty hard to see how that could be. But maybe it's because we're too woke? If so, I will accept that label with a smile and a bit of self-deprecating, but not self-defeating humor. Alan's talk today is about humor in spiritual life and life in general. I'm going to listen and take home this message. I'm going to try to see the humor in more things. And regardless of how innocent and funny something may be, maybe even to the butt of the joke, I'm also going to try to use humor less, to do less against-ing and more building up. We join together now as we light our chalice in speaking together the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Our first hymn, contrary to what is in the order of service, is 354, not 34. So You can find it in the book, or it will be up here on the screen.
over the summer, we have allowed our volunteers to take a rest. We don't have RE. Yep. Am I not on? Am I muted? What did I have Alex just let me do my thing. Yeah, there it is. I don't know. I'll try to figure it out, but there's a lot of buttons on here that they're new. I haven't played with them yet. There's a switch on top. See, I'm even. Okay, there we go. All right, there we go. Thank you. They're new. I don't know how the new technology works. I know you guys all think I know what I'm doing here, but I only pretend. Thank you. We're going to do our time for all ages, but we can all stay in our seats. But if you kids are kids at heart or just antsy folks want to come up and move up here, as we usually do, that's allowed as well. We don't have a formal RE over the summer program over the summer. We want to invite our children to stay in the service here. Reverend Joel and I firmly believe that kids can get something out of this. No matter your age, out of the service being together. It's important that they learn together. It's important for you to hear what the adults are talking about. It's important for the adults to experience you all in your thing. Kids, I do have one pointer though. It goes faster if you participate. If you pretend to sing the songs, it goes faster. We're going to talk about it later. But pay attention. It actually goes faster. I guarantee you. I am someone who doesn't sit well through services even now at almost 40. So participate. It goes faster. So we're going to watch a video that Alan sent us, and it'll explain everything to us. So we can stay up there. You can come sit down here. I'm going to sit down on this chair here and watch. Give it to me, Alex.
The monkey business illusion. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the ball. The correct answer is 16 passes. Did you spot the gorilla? For people who haven't seen or heard about a video like this before, about half missed the gorilla. If you knew about the gorilla, you probably saw it. But did you notice the curtain changing color or the player on the black team leaving the game? Let's rewind and watch it again. Here comes the gorilla, and there goes a player, and the curtain is changing from red to gold. When you're looking for a gorilla, you often miss other unexpected events. And that's the monkey business illusion.
I actually heard a lot more snickering in the back, so people caught the gorilla. How many people caught the curtain change? You guys caught the curtain change over here? Good on you. How many people got the number of passes right? I definitely didn't. Very cool. All right. I'm sure that'll all be explained later in Reverend Allen's talk, but it's a good little experiment about being present and in the moment and paying attention to kind of everything around us. Sometimes we get fixated on counting the passes, we miss the gorilla, and if we get distracted by the gorilla, we miss the curtain change or the players leaving and stuff. So, yeah, I think that's what he wanted us to talk about there. I'm going to share with us our milestones and passages, and then we'll spend a little time in meditation, silent meditation together. First, we want to lift up best wishes to Alan for a full and speedy recovery from illness. His Odyssey is next week, so we really hope that he's in good shape to kind of come and share his story with us. Janie wants to wish her husband, Drew Hayes, a very happy birthday today. Happy birthday, Drew. And good news, there's cake in the terrace room after the service, so everyone go over there and get some cake. You love cake? I love cake too. Yeah? Awesome. Anyone else? Any cake? I prefer cookies. They're my favorite, but that's all right. Paul Snellgrove and Margaret Roman share with us that they have a new granddaughter. Their daughter, Evelyn, gave birth to Aurora Isabella, 7 pounds, 7 ounces, on July 17th, which is also my Charlotte's birthday. They said they waited a long time to see her, and she has made it into their hearts. So that is exciting news. Yeah. And Jerry, Silk shares that she is having major surgery under anesthesia on her tongue at Atlantic Hospital. She reminds us that the tongue is for speaking, eating, kissing, and playing the flute. And so please wish her well. Let's come together in a time of reverence, prayer, contemplation. Friends, we come together in this place, creating a community, a shared body that that seeks to serve the community, serve our inward community and our outward community. Particularly today, we lift up those and think about those and pray for those, reflect on those listed today in our cards. We also, in this time, think about those in our lives who need just a little extra thought today. Perhaps they are sharing a joy, a birthday, a new birth. Perhaps they are going through something difficult, a sickness, a surgery, financial problems. Let us spend a moment thinking about them. As a community, together, we think about those in our world who struggle day to day, not with extraordinary circumstances, but just normal ones. Friends of ours, people in our community who struggle with addiction or mental illness or chronic disease or poverty or hunger. Let us now take a moment to reflect on them. And we remember those in our world that are facing adversity. Friends across this country, people across this country who are falling victims to laws that target vulnerable people, the LGBTQIA community, trans and non-binary community who are being singled out. We lift up those across our country by women who seek to find their own medical care in places where it's not allowed. We lift up people and think about people who just find themselves in a part of a country where they don't feel at home, in a state or a community that they may have grew up in that may have changed because of political divides, changing attitudes. Let us now reflect on our community, our country as a whole. And now we think about our world that is melting, our world that for centuries we have not been very good stewards of. We think about those people in that world, people across the sea, over the seas who are in places of war, the people of Ukraine. We lift up those who are being exploited so that we can have cheap goods here in America, in India, and in China. We think about those folks who experience hunger. Friends, we lift up all of these people. We think about all these people, not because we think that some magic will bestow upon them, though maybe you do, and that's the beauty of UUs. Not because we think that they will win the lottery and be lucky, though maybe they will, but because we as a community think it is important to reflect and remember those among us who perhaps may not have the privileges that we have. Amen. Well, before I move on, I just want to share a little bit of a personal privilege in there. As many of you know, I grew up in the Christian church, and I grew up leading a lot of prayers of the people in my congregation. It was actually my last congregation was kind of my go-to thing. And that was the first time I've done it with you all. And so if it sounded a little Christian-y, I apologize for that. I'm trying to figure out how to make that work and move that language in there, but it was very moving to be able to really share with you all in there. So thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. Usually the ministers do that. Awesome. We are going to hear a piece of music that Beth is going to play, and then we will do our offertory. But this is a piece for us to reflect upon in this time.
Written for any instrument or combination of instruments. I abridged it to 2 minutes.
I was going to join her on guitar, but I had too much other things going on. I know, it was silly of me. We are now going to collect our offering. As always, our offering is split between the fellowship and outside groups this week. We are splitting 50-50 with Peacework, supporting grassroots organizations in Nicaragua as they work to address poverty, violence against women, and environmental degradation. So please give freely.
So Reverend Allen sent me his talk. It is in first person, which I will still do, but don't ask me any questions because I don't know the answers. I would like to begin this talk with a prayer that was originally offered by Robert Frost. Forgive me, O Lord, my little jokes on thee, and I'll forgive thy great big one on me. If upon hearing these words you experience a slight change in the curvature of your lower cheek that enables muscles to turn up in your face and tempt you to awareness of a slight smile, then I suspect you may be in on the joke. Frost's prayer is a not-so-subtle insinuation that there is something out of order, chaotic, divisive, disordered, or paradoxically arranged in the universe as we know it. The creativity of all religions and philosophical inquiry lies in their awakening to this incongruity and then in their proposals for a resolution. How you respond to this dichotomy could make you a Buddhist, cause you to become a confirmed cynic, or motivate you to become a fire and brimstone preacher, especially if you had a particularly bad day and wanted to extrapolate a theology from it. But what if you could forgo the theology or philosophy and just relax into the inspiration of your facial muscles when they elongate into a slight smile? What then? Think of all the time we searchers would save, lost in dark caves meditating, researching in cramped carols tucked away in confusing libraries, or adjusting our computer programming so that ChatGPT can explain to us the ultimate meaning of life. I confess there are times when I belittled humor because I thought it provoked us to distance ourselves from facing the profound complexities of life. It seemed to me that in this corner of the Milky Way, on this small earth where miraculous Homo sapiens have appeared, it was incumbent upon us to be more solemn. But I've come to realize that there's a crucial difference between dismissing life's conflicts and living free of their grip. Anyway, we all know that we always laugh the hardest when we are not supposed to. So maybe feeling subject to a little restriction could be a help. Maybe life's contradictions actually prime us for awakening. And maybe liberation begins with surviving the surveillance of shoulds. I know that most of my spiritual teachers can laugh a lot, especially at themselves. This capacity is true also of some spiritual communities I have known. I am thinking now of the traditional Hopi, whom many indigenous peoples consider to be the most priestly of the North American Indians. Once I was privileged to have been invited by their spiritual leader, Grandfather David, to attend their sacred Kia Katsina dance. The Kia Katsina dance occurs every year in the plaza of their community, Hotavia. The Hopi located Hotavia on top of a mesa high above the desert of western Arizona, in the most Spartan and hard to reach of places, a location which some might consider in itself to be a big joke. The Hopi have a dry humor and ready wit. As the dance was about to begin, a Hopi dancer walked over to me, noticed that I was a white person, and asked, "What religion are you?" I replied, "I am a Unitarian Universalist." We all know to expect a follow-up question, right? Of course, he asked, "Well, what is that?" Trying to be succinct, I replied, "We believe that there are many people, but one God." To which he snorted, "That's your problem." You've too many people and too few gods. As preparation for the dance, the dancers had spent 3 days of prayer in their kiva, which is, I had to look this up. It's a large circular underground room where spiritual experiences occur. On the day of the dance, they emerged into the central plaza. As preparation for the plaza is surrounded by multi-storied adobe houses. Families and friends all sat on the rooftops in picnic chairs, drumming and waving feathers. In rhythm with the drumming, as the chosen ones, dressed in their finery, danced. Each dance lasted about half an hour. Then I was surprised. As soon as the sacred dancers had departed the plaza, other Indians emerged from the kiva dressed up as clowns. They wore bright dime store Indian outfits and had adorned themselves with outlandish fake feathers. They proceeded to satirize and to mock the dancers who had just finished. They made bawdy jokes about foolish Indians, mimicked the white man's prejudicial view of drunken Indians, and made awkward gyrations to defame the previous dancers' dexterous movements. I had never before in my life witnessed such a close contrast between the sacred and the profane. It came as a shock to me to realize that their fun-making would be analogous to my leaving a mass at the Church of the Assumption down the street from where I live, and then proceeding on its front steps to satirize the movements of the priests, mimic the acolytes, the rite of the Eucharist, and laugh at the swinging of incense burners and the ringing of bells and whistles. Despite Thomas Aquinas' prescription to make use, from time to time, of playful deeds and jokes to relax the mind, I am sure that this would be going too far. But the Hopi brought it off, and their ability to laugh at themselves and their religion more than any other act I can imagine confirmed for me the depth of their spirit and the security of their heritage. The nearest I have ever come to such spiritual mimicry within UUism occurred at a conference of UU young people that long ago I attended to help me decide whether to become a UU minister. Without decorum, these young people put on a play that satirized our most famous UU heroes, from Channing to Emerson, that we are so fond of acclaiming. Partly because of the security I saw that they had found in UUism that allowed them to do this, I decided that I would enter theological school for the UU ministry. So if I need to blame the perspective of this talk on anyone, I will blame it on our indecorous, fully alive, and free-speaking youth. Well, I'm just kidding. In the ancient Hindu Ramayana, the sages record that there are 3 things that are real: God, human folly, and laughter. The first 2 are beyond our comprehension, so we must do what we can with the third. From my UU Buddhist perspective, it seems odd and unfortunate that humor regarding the divine is so prevalently absent in former religion and politely off limits in the erudite's discussion of Western theologians. An exception is that of the mystics, of nearly all religions, in fact, who seem to thrive upon life's complexities that are incomprehensible to the rest of us. For example, there's a Christian, Thomas Merton, who, committed as he was to the wisdom of St. Benedict, refused to follow St. Benedict's rules to abstain from laughter. And a few erudite philosophers followed suit. One is none other than the mathematician and logician Ludwig Wittgenstein, who is considered by some to be the greatest philosopher of the 20th century. Wittgenstein proclaimed that a serious and good philosophical work could be written consisting entirely of jokes. Why do we laugh? When I was in college, I had the hubris to try to answer this question. I made a little beginning by writing a small thesis on the nature of the funny, which I will spare you now. But I perceive that the success of a joke lies in its surpassing ability to conflate two unsuspected and previously perceived as unrelated or even opposite frames of reference. We laugh when we realize these diverse perspectives have something in common and, in fact, are interconnected. Riddles and paradoxes do the same thing, they just involve less laughter. I wonder if you would be willing to take a little frame of reference test right now. Would you? Okay, I see some nods. Can an ecumenical council contain pagans? Can good and evil coexist? Can you use exist without a coffee hour? No is the correct answer. So, what was the first question I asked you just a minute ago? Okay, Beth got it. Many of you may have guessed that the answer was, can an ecumenical council, that word is really difficult for me to say. Can an ecumenical council contain pagans? Or you could answer, would you be willing to take a little frame of reference test? Would you? And the difference depends on your frame of reference. Was the first question my question, could I ask you a question? Or was it the first question that I asked you after that? Either answer is true depending on your frame of perspective. This matter of different perspectives that depends upon your frame of reference doesn't, for me, seem that far removed from the paradoxical perspectives in the Zen chant from the Heart Sutra, where one chants, O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness, emptiness is no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness, emptiness exactly form. But if talking about paradoxes and the meaning of matrices in the spiritual sense seems mysterious, it is nothing compared to the revelations that quantum physicists have when they talk about things remaining absolutely non-existent until they are observed. Or about entanglement theory, which posits that two particles, when separated, even though they could be light years away from each other, can remain as one in their actions, independent of time. Quantum physicist and Nobel Prize winner Richard Feynman, who was voted by other physicists to be one of the greatest physicists of all time, has this to say about the paradox of quantum physics. What I am going to tell you about physics is not to turn away because you don't understand it. That is because I don't understand it either. Roger Ebert, the famous film critic, may have achieved an understanding of paradox. Perhaps he arrived at an outside-the-system perspective on life, just as he was about to die in 2013. It is said that he gently smiled and passed a tenderly written note to his wife. His words are memorialized in the lyrics of a song by the band Clem Snide. He wrote in a note that he passed to his wife as she felt him shedding the skin of his life. It said, "There is a vastness that can't be contained or described as a thought in the flesh of our brain. It's everything, everywhere, future and past, dissolving forever in an eternal flash. It's all an elaborate hoax." The Buddha never uses the word hoax, as far as I know. But he declared that it is possible for us to live with more than one frame of reference at the same time. On the one hand, we can live within our ordinary perspective that we have constructed entirely around conditioned events. When we live from only this perspective, we subject ourselves to suffering. However, the Buddha declared that we can live additionally and at the very same time within a vast perspective, within an ultimate frame of reference, which is unconditioned. Perhaps this is the vastness to which Roger Ebert was referring. In short form, you could say that we have the possibility of living from the perspective of the ocean and the possibility of living from the perspective of the wave, and we can do both at the same time. The difficulty with achieving this bifocal perspective is that we cannot arrive at it through reason or analytical thinking, because these processes are themselves the machinations of only one focus, which is that of our limited, conditional, and ordinary frame of reference. This is why I think that one of the greatest of theologians, Reinhold Niebuhr, complained that humor is more profound than any philosophy that seeks to explain life's incongruities by reason alone. To resolve the paradox of our human condition, we have to first surrender our prejudices for single frame of reference and open to the surprising possibility of a new perspective. When we see the big view, we get the joke. However, we are by no means helpless in the meantime. We can create conditions that make our awakening to a larger frame of reference far more likely. First of all, we can experiment with being less reactive. This opens mental space that lies between our impulses and our actions. Gradually, we can become aware of the deep silence and potential infinite spaciousness that exists between our thoughts and is, in fact, the source from where they arise. And most importantly, we can relax and perhaps even smile. Meditation is a prime practice for helping us with all three of these approaches. Rinzai Zen employs koans to jolt us all into the larger mystery. Koans tease you with two matrices which can't conceptually mate. To resolve a koan, you have to step outside the system and see that what seems from within the system to make no sense is part of a larger perspective that is whole. In other words, you have to get the joke. You may ask, did the Buddha really smile? I don't know. The portrayals of his half-smile were conjured 500 years after his passing. Perhaps his followers who were delighted in his presence just projected a smile onto his countenance. Writing long after the Buddha's death, in a book called The Legend of King Asoka, the authors write, "The Buddha smiled, and varicolored rays of light extended from this smile up to the gods in heaven and down to all below, where warmth brought relief to those suffering." Will Rogers once wrote, "I don't make jokes. I just watch the government and report the facts." I wonder if the Buddha did not pay similar attention to our lives. He closely watched how we lived, carefully noted the facts, and saw that most of us are locked into single frames of reference that depend on conditional thinking, which causes us to suffer. And he awakened to the fact that there is also a larger frame of reference wherein one is freed from this reactivity unconditionally, where it doesn't have to be this way. If this is the case, then I suspect that then he may have smiled softly. A Zen teacher has written, "Life is a very serious joke." We have the capacity to live from more than one frame of reference, to realize that when we are fragmented, we are also whole. If you are in the midst of a contentious conversation or find yourself cornered by seemingly irresolvable opposites, between the devil and the deep blue sea, as it were, and sense an upward curvature of your jaw muscles, which may feel entirely inappropriate in the circumstance because it is tending toward a slight smile, pause and appreciate the significance of this moment. It may be a little reminder of your capacity for awakening. May we all awaken to inklings of freedom. May we live in happiness and peace. May we live securely in body and in mind. May we live a life of ease and well-being.
Excellent. We're going to join together in a responsive reading. It'll be up on the screen here. I'll read the first part. You all read the bold part there. From arrogance, pompousness, and from thinking ourselves more important than we are, may some saving sense of humor liberate us. For allowing ourselves to ridicule the faith of others, may we be forgiven. From making war and calling it peace, special privilege and calling it justice, indifference and calling it tolerance, pollution and calling it progress, may we be cured. For telling ourselves and others that evil is inevitable, while good is impossible, may we stand corrected. All together. God, in the midst of tragic, expiring, doubting, and surging lives, help us to be as good in our hearts as we always wanted to be. We will close with hymn 131. And your hymnals are up on the screen. Love will guide us. Stand, please. I was recently at a wedding, and they part of their vows, both of the couple said, "You are the person who makes me laugh the hardest." And to me, that seems like a wonderful way to share love. So as we go from this place, show our love by laughing with those around us. Go in peace. All right.